Hello my friends, welcome to Pro Strings. I'm Henriette and today is day 20 of our Learn to Play the Violin in 30 Days course. You have done brilliantly to stick with me all that time and to tackle some very challenging pieces on the way. Today we will be taking things a little bit easier. I hope that by the end of this lesson you will be able to play all the pieces that we have learned so far with confidence and with a good violin position and bow hold and with a good intonation. Intonation, playing in tune, is an aspect of violin playing which you will always be giving very careful consideration throughout your violin playing career. So I find it important to get it in early and to develop intonation together with all the other techniques of violin playing. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do so now. I'll play you the tuning notes first. In the past few lessons we have worked on the G major scale and arpeggio, and today we are going to start with the 2-octave G scale as well, and I would encourage you today to play each note 3 times. Usually we would play each note twice, as you know, but today I would like you to listen to each note for a bit longer now and to try and make the tuning better on the second playing and even better on the third time that you play each note. So here we go. Let's hold it there for a moment, and now I want you to check that your finger line is still level with the E string here. So what I want you to check is that you haven't by accident dropped this finger line down a little bit like that, but that finger line is still equally high as where you had it before. So we're going to go from the top down now, and we continue to play each note 3 times. And do the same thing on the arpeggio, and we're playing every note 3 times with long bows, and I want you to listen super carefully and to try to improve your tuning all the time. Here we go. And well done. Playing in tune is an interesting aspect of learning how to play the violin, and we all know that the violin doesn't have a great reputation when it comes to the sound. I hope that you will prove the generalists wrong who might say that violin playing is so often out of tune or scratchy. So that's why we're doing all these exercises. Improving on the tone quality and the intonation starts with learning to listen, and that is what this lesson is all about. I want you to think for yourself and answer this question honestly for yourself too. How often do you hear what you want to hear, rather than what is actually sounding? So now let's play lightly row, and first we need to remember that in lightly row we are back at our original finger pattern. We are playing in the key of A major, so we have a space between our first and second fingers on all 4 strings. So let's test our fingers 1, 2, 3 and 4 on the A string before we begin. Okay, so now we're going to play lightly row super slowly, as our aim today is to play this piece perfectly in tune. I'll count us in for 4, and I want you to listen to each note carefully and change it immediately if you think it's less than perfectly in tune. So playing it slowly will allow you time to do that. Check over your left thumb, your finger line and your tennis ball, because having a good left hand position makes playing in tune a lot easier. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. practice tuning on is Song of the Wind. You have learned this song before. It is a good habit to come back to old songs that have had time to settle in your brain a little bit further and come back to them at a later stage and try to perfect them. So again, we're going to play Song of the Wind very slowly, and we're going to listen super intently both to the tuning and also to the tone quality, and that is the sound that you make. And I want you to listen especially to whether you play on single strings or whether you accidentally hit other strings as well that you don't mean to play but that somehow creep into the music. So here we go, I'll count us in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope that you have been able to listen and that you have heard what has been going on. Let me first address some intonation issues. If you have found yourself to be playing the third finger too sharp, it is likely that your finger isn't curved enough on the string, and that it may be that the third finger can't get close enough to the second finger because it is flat like that. And you may need to check that your fingers come on their fingertips, and you may well not be able to play on your fingertips because your nail is slightly too long. So violinists always have very short nails on their left hand, and that is done so that you can actually play that third finger on your fingertip. Secondly, you may need to bring your left elbow further under the violin, which brings the knuckles of your left hand here level with the fingerboard, and it brings your fingers higher above the strings, and this will in turn enable you to bend your fingers more, and therefore you may be able to play the third finger closer to the second finger as well. And this about tone quality. If your sound is quite scratchy, perhaps you can check if your bow hair is flat on the string. Check over your right wrist, and depending on what your wrist looks like, try to get your wrist a bit flatter. So if I'm playing on the inside of my bow, my wrist is too low. If I'm playing on the outside of my bow, my wrist may be too high. So in order to get your hair flat on the bow, lower your wrist a little bit. So you try rolling the bow and your wrist, bringing your wrist up and down so that you get all the hair flat on the string. Next, let's check if your bow is parallel to the bridge. If your bow is at an angle, try to move your bow arm forward, so you bring it forwards further towards the front of your body. And this is very difficult to check for yourself, so you might ask somebody else to check that for you if your bow is really parallel to the bridge. It's not very easy to see it in a mirror either. So this is to do with the angle that you bow on, you see? So if my bow hand is far enough forwards, like that, and my bow gets straight along the bridge. If my hand is too close to my body, my bow goes at an angle like that. And if I'm too far forward, my bow's at an angle like that. So you want to make sure that you gauge this correctly. Now, we have talked about the next issue in the beginning of this course, but it is worth going over this again if you find that you're accidentally playing extra strings that you don't need to play. And I'm questioning whether your elbow, your right elbow, is at the right level for each of the strings. So if you hit other strings, you want to try to listen if you mostly hit a higher string than you mean to, in which case your elbow needs to get a bit higher. Or if you mostly hear a lower string than the one you mean to play, join in which case your elbow needs to drop down a little bit, so you gauge the elbow levels correctly. It is quite normal that there are all kinds of things going on in your playing at this level, so please don't be disheartened if there are lots of issues to fix. Many people experience the exact same things as you are. You may write about it in the comment section below and you will come out of this phase, I will promise. Try to get to grips with only one thing at a time. So perhaps check out your scratchiness first before tackling your intonation, because it's easier to hear if you are playing in tune if you have a better sound. So can I suggest that the sound quality is the first issue to address if you are trying to solve multiple mysteries? Now, that's enough talking for now. Let's learn a new piece as well today. And we're going to play O Come Little Children on page 29. I'll play it for you first. Noticed this piece is in the key of A major. It has 3 sharps in its key signature and the piece finishes on an A at the end. A major has the same finger pattern that we learned as our first finger pattern, so with wide second fingers on all 4 strings. So let's now get all 4 fingers on the A string before we begin. You may also have noticed that this tune starts on an up bow. You note the little V shape above the first note? So we're going to start our bow in the middle and we're going to go up bow, so up towards the ceiling on the A string. I'll count us in for 3. 1, 2, 3. We're going to finish in the middle of the bow and then we're ready to play that next up bow at and now we'll stop again in the middle. Ready? bows at the end of each line, and you've perhaps also already tried to end the first note of each last bar in the middle of the bow. And then you will be playing that note towards the middle of the bow, and that's where you start the next up bow from. So shall we practice it again? So let's play the whole song again now, and let's listen out specifically to the tuning of this piece. Do try to adjust your fingers if you find that one of the fingers is playing out of tune. So I'm testing my fingers first. After 3, 1, 2, 3. Stop in the middle and well done. So you can now keep practicing this piece on your own at home. You've been improving all your skills today, and that has been absolutely awesome. In lesson 21, we will be taking our learning a little bit further again. And I can't wait for that lesson, as we will be learning minuet number 2. So I look forward to seeing you then. Happy practicing, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.